Welcome to another round of Coffee and Donuts. I'm Frank. If you don't know who I am, a little bit about me is I'm a former federal law enforcement officer and now a full-time law enforcement instructor. I'm the training director here at Armageddon Training, where we help candidates and law enforcement through not only the hiring process, but their career progression. Now, with this, I'm going to jump in. I have 3 pre-submitted questions that I'm going to go over here for you all, and I'm going to break it down individually, what these questions, and give you a actual in-depth answer. Here we go. First question. I completed all the steps and the last one background, and I haven't heard anything in a month. Any insight? So, what this individual is saying, based on my interpretation of the question, is they've completed everything. The last thing they had was background to complete, which is actually pretty typical. Background runs the entire length of the process. Don't ever let anyone tell you, hey, your background's done until you have your official hiring letter, because they can always bring up, hey, we discovered something in your background at any time. So, if it's been a month, right, we have kind of a 4-week, 6-week cutoff here. The way I say this, at the earliest, if you've had zero contact, and I don't mean you didn't have contact from your background investigator, but you've had contact with a hiring official, or you already have something scheduled coming up, then do nothing, right? But if 4 weeks has passed and you've had zero contact, you've been ghosted, then yes, you can reach out with a professional email. We have a bunch of templates in our online course for anyone who has access to our online course, or our coaching members. They all get access to that. And we have templates. The big thing is, when you're reaching out, make it a professional email. And inside tip, always send it on a Monday morning and give them the week to respond to you. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of the avenue you want to go, because you want to give them time to respond. You don't want to just be blasting them with emails or texts. Never text, never call, always email first. You can call after you send 2 emails over the course of 2 weeks, and then really it's 10 days. But then you can call, the Wednesday of the second week after you've sent 2 follow-up emails. Make sure they're professional. If they're not professional, then there's not much I can do for you, and you're probably going to put your hiring official or your background investigator, whoever you're dealing with, in a bad mood. But 4 weeks is the cutoff, and they have to be zero contact with nothing pre-scheduled ahead of you. Do not waste their time. I'm telling you, that's the fastest way to get your hiring official or your background investigator agitated with you. Don't do it. I'm trying to help you out here. All right, next one. If I were to get disqualified, how long do you suggest I wait to reapply to the same agency? In short, I don't recommend you I don't recommend you reapply to the same agency. And here's my thought process behind that. This agency already has a negative connotation with you, right? Your name is always going to be there as, hey, you were removed from XYZ purpose. Now, there are a few reasons when you can reapply, and here they are. The most common 2 that I have no issues if you reapply is if you failed the written exam or the physical exam. No worries, retake them, pass, reapply. They're not going to hold that against you. Some departments, you can get away with some leeway with the board interview, right? The board interview would say, the board interview would say, you went through and hey, we liked you, but we just have more qualified applicants, and we decided not to move forward with you. Then you're not necessarily getting disqualified. You just didn't pass that section. That's why I picked these 3: the written exam, the physical exam, and the board. But some departments, the board's a no-go too, right? Because they're saying like, hey, no, we don't want you. And why would you want to reapply to someplace that doesn't want you? And even if they're your dream agency, there's another way to get to them. I'll explain that here in a second. But yes, outside of that, if you go into the background phase, if you go to the chief's board, if you go to chief's interview, if you go to the poly, the psych, the med, and they tell you no, and they disqualify you, not non-select, but they disqualify you, I wouldn't reapply. I just would no. identify your top 3 other departments and then apply to them. I always suggest having 3 departments in the hiring process at the same time. No more, no less. Okay? Just kind of keep that in mind. My recommendation to you. If you decide to go off and apply to more than that, it may come back to bite you, because those departments are or other departments may look at it as you're not committed, and they don't want to put you and pay for you to go through the hiring process, let alone the academy training, only for you to leave as soon as you get your foot in the door. It's not something they want to do. So keep that in mind. All right, next question. I actually wanted to save a lot of time to really hit on this one. I really want to be a police officer. Haven't even started with applying to agencies yet, but my self-doubt stresses me out. Okay. First of all, good for you for self-recognizing that, right? Like, hey, I have self-doubt in myself, so it's slowing me from applying. That's not where I want you to focus. All right. What I'd rather you do right now is, if you're not going to apply, and I don't want you to apply, I don't want you to apply until you've done your preparation phase. There's a lot that goes into preparation, but pretty much it's getting all your information, all your references, all your past resident history, all your work history, all those references, addresses, making sure your credit's good, making sure you have any police interactions and everything listed. And the reason why is because if you miss any of this throughout the later on in the hiring process, specifically your background, your poly, it's most likely going to have a negative impact on your hiring process. Whether you get disqualified or not, it's going to depend on the actual investigator and what they find and what it says in the review. But ultimately, you don't want to run into that. So before you even apply, I think you're in the right spot. Take this time to do the preparation phase. That includes, getting ready for the written exam, doing some studying if you've been out of school for a while, getting ready for the physical exam. I don't care if it's just something as simple as the agility course, and you could do the agility course blind. Well, that's great, but then you're going to have to do the academy. And I promise you, they're going to start the academy the first week and physically beat you down, for the sheer fact that they want to, one, teach you mental toughness, and two, weed out anyone that is not mentally. It's not even for the physical. They don't care if you do well during the physical portion. It's just to see if mentally you break, because they'd rather you break in the academy than out there on the street when you or this community or one of your fellow officers need you to physically show up and perform. So so this one particularly, I think you're in the right spot. If you're saying like, hey, I haven't applied yet, that's great. I wish I could get to every applicant in your spot, and I wish I could help them through the preparation phase, because I promise you it's going to make the difference. Actually, it's going to make the difference so much that it's what gets me and my team to get candidates hired 30% faster than the national average, right? 30% faster than the national. Not, hey, are we going to get you hired? If you're an eligible candidate, our average is about 30% faster. And that's because individuals are taking the time to do the preparation phase, and then they're getting through the process, and the departments aren't waiting on them. They're waiting on the departments. So, kind of give you an insight. I had a candidate that finished everything in 2 months, right? Average hiring process, 6 to 8 months. They finished everything in 2 months. Every time they asked for something, here it is. Here it is. We have it. Yep. Here it is. Here it is. Now, we spent 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, going through preparation and getting them ready. And then in the next 5 or 6 weeks from that point on, they went through all the hiring process, got everything done, and then they were going to do a pre-hire, which means they bring you on before, a couple months before the academy starts, so they don't lose you to another department, right? That department ran into some issues with pre-hire, so ultimately that candidate, he got hired, but had to wait 2 months just sitting there because he was done everything, right? So it took him about 4 months to get hired ultimately, which is significantly faster than the national average. But he had to sit around and wait because he was so prepared, which is what you want. You want to be waiting on them. You don't want them waiting on you. And if you're waiting around for them for 2 months, that's great. It's still better than waiting 6 months or 8 months to get hired, because you're waiting on them, then they're waiting on you, then you're waiting on them, and then you're waiting on you. And it just prolongs the hiring process, right? Where opposed to you being prepared and going through it, it's going to significantly reduce your time frame for the not only the hiring length, but it's also going to make you look like a better candidate. So if you do have some hurdles, they're going to say, man, this guy, this gal is so squared away. I'm willing to overlook, a couple of these hurdles that aren't disqualifying factors and still rank them as a very qualified candidate and make them an offer. Right? That's what you're shooting for. Now, getting into the more in-depth part of this question, saying, anxiety and stress are getting in the way. You're always going to have that, and you should have that. That's what keeps you on your toes. That's what keeps a law enforcement officer, aware and situationally aware out on the street when they're working. Is that I don't want to use the term fear, but that stress, right? That stress of, hey, I need to be on my P's and Q's. The reason you're stressed out about this, I'm not a psychologist, but the reason you're stressed out, I'd be willing to say, or at least, assume, I hate to say it, but I would at least assume that it's because you care, right? You don't want to fail through the process. That's going to be the big thing to take away from this, right? Is, hey, if you didn't care about it, you wouldn't be stressed about it. So the fact that you are stressed tells me you care about it, which is the exact type of person that I want out there on the street, as long as you're eligible, right? Take this and understand that you can be stressed. You can have a little bit of anxiety and everything like that. What dictates the type of officer you'll be is how you handle it, how you work through it. Right. There's a lot of mental toughness techniques that you can use out there. Just 4x4 breathing, 4 seconds in, exhale for 4 seconds. Some even say, hey, have a 4-second hold in there. So it would look like, and then 4-second exhale. Right. And that slows your heart rate down, gets some oxygen in your blood, helps your brain start, functioning properly here, allows you to think clearly. Maybe do that and then tackle it. But you're going to feel a whole lot more confident if you do the preparation phase first before you even submit any application. So like I said, identifying those departments, getting everything done. And then when you do apply, you're going to say, well, heck, I did all the work beforehand. Now all I got to do is just go do the testing. And the testing is your written exam, your physical exam, your board, your poly, your psych, your med, maybe your chiefs or your civilian review board, whatever they have there. But yeah, I think the big thing for you, the reason why you're so stressed is one, you care, and two, you're not prepared, right? Because if you were prepared, you wouldn't be stressed, right? I've never walked into a law enforcement physical fitness test and was stressed about it, right? No, because I knew physical fitness was one of my key functions. It's one of the things that I've been good at, and it's not, hey, am I going to pass this test? It's saying, hey, how well am I going to do on it? Is this going to be one of my best runs ever? Is this going to be one of my, am I going to feel fatigued afterwards or not? It was never, I never worried about passing. I never had that stress, not for a physical fitness exam, ever. I was prepared, 100% prepared. I can't take credit for it. I've had good mentors, good instructors, and good teachers throughout my career as well. That's kept me in great shape. But I was never concerned about it. So I hope this helps. Like I said, you guys can do this. You can do it. If you're listening to me right now, you can do this. Law enforcement, if you're adamant about being a good, ethical law enforcement officer and getting out there and serving your community, don't restrict yourself. Don't let the assumption of you not making it through stop you from even trying to apply and do the great services that you can do out there. My team and I are always here to help. So if you need anything, just reach out to us. Hey, before I let you go, I did want to ask real quick, if you enjoy this, know that we go in and we answer all the questions on YouTube. And then if you have any enjoyment from the podcast, from the audio podcast, no matter where you're watching it, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the other platforms, please leave us a review and like and share it. That's how we get out there. And then that shows me that this is the content that you all want to see, and then it's actually being beneficial. So if you have a comment and you want to ask a quick question, you can ask it over on YouTube. We try to answer all of them for as long as we can, as well as any of the extra extra gifts that we have for you. But additionally, you can go on to our website. It's Armagan CT, so ARMOGANCT.com. And up there, we have live free trainings that we do as well occasionally. And you can keep checking there and see if that's something that you want to jump onto. I hope this all helps you. As I said before, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.